I'm Richard Kite. I'm a member of the Rancho Mirage City Council, and on behalf of our mayor, Ron Mipos, the City Council of Rancho Mirage, and the city staff, I would really like to welcome you all to tonight's 7th Annual Emergency Preparedness Town Hall meeting. The topic for tonight's discussion is Be Prepared to Survive. The city's Emergency Preparedness Commission is responsible for putting on tonight's event. The current chairman of this commission is Richard Perry. Dick has been the chairman of this commission for the last 3 years and has led the commission to being one of the most outstanding emergency preparedness commissions throughout the state. Over that period of time, we have implemented an earthquake preparedness plan that has served as a model for many other cities in the valley. At this time, I'd like you to give a big hand to our commission chairman, Richard Perry, and who will direct the rest of this program tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for being here. It's very important to us that we see the kind of turnout that we have because we know that preparedness is such an important issue for us here in Rancho Mirage. Let me start by introducing the other members of our commission. They're all seated right here in front. There's 11 of us right now. The commission was formed by the City Council in 1993, so we've been in existence for quite some time. The job of the commission is to make sure that the residents of Rancho Mirage are prepared for any of the risks that we face on a daily basis. And there are a bunch of them. We have a major metropolitan airport here. We have a very busy transportation corridor in I-10. We have hazardous materials that go through the city or adjacent to the city at all times. And so we need to be aware of all the risks that we face. But obviously, the one we're most concerned about here in the Coachella Valley, which we're going to hear a lot about tonight, is earthquake. The members of the commission, I'm going to ask them to stand so that you can see them and then remain standing if you would. Mr. Buck Galbraith, Mr. Dick Davis, Mike Potter,
Hi there, Bill.
Les Thomas, Doug Bornstein, Gail Tischer, Del Francis, Deanie Shaver, Chris Heritage, another commissioner, couldn't be with us tonight, Mr. Jim Redmond, Dennis Milletti, Dr. Dennis Milletti, who is a special liaison to our commission, and myself.
Lights off.
Thanks. Next, Jim. Tonight's invitation, Be Prepared and Survive. I'd like to introduce Dr. Dennis Milletti.
Our invitation for you all tonight, and that includes ourselves, is be prepared and survive. For what? Events that we all really hope never happen, but particularly the earthquake that was described in the shakeout that was conducted this last November in Southern California. Why? Because big things happen here in California. Tonight's topics are, what should we all do to get ready? We're actually going to tell you tonight about the major actions that every person who lives here should consider and then take. And we're summarizing recommendations from some of the best documents people have put together on this topic. Second, we're going to report on what people in Rancho Mirage have actually done so far. The city funded the Emergency Preparedness Commission to do a scientific survey of our residents. It was conducted in fall of the year 2008. It was based on a statistically representative sample of every one of our city's residents. And because the lights are dark, I wouldn't be able to see it if you raised your hand, But if you got the questionnaire and participated in the survey, would you clap so I know if some of you are here? Wow. Well, thank you for participating. We distributed 2,125 questionnaires, and 707 questionnaires were returned for a 33% response rate. I want to say a few things about that because it speaks about your character. You'll know if it was good or bad in a minute. We selected a sample size of 2125, estimating that's how many we'd need to get back the 400 returns we'd need to have the ability to generalize statistically. We got back 300 more questionnaires than we anticipated. So that was quite a performance. The third thing we're going to talk about tonight is how you can help us to motivate people to do more to get ready for the earthquake that's in our future. And we'll be reporting on findings from a new major study that's just been completed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security on this very topic. But remember, despite everything that we're saying and your own natural inclination, remember to prepare for the right earthquake. The right earthquake is the one in our future, and that's the one described in the shakeout that we had in November. I was part of writing the scenario for that event, and I recommend to you that you be ready to be on your own, not for 72 hours, but for 7 to 10 days. And you don't need to take my word for it. Lucy Jones and others at the USGS assembled the best seismologists, geologists, engineers, economists, sociologists, and others to write the best, most detailed survey ever done in America. And it's available to you in 16 plain languaged pages simply by going online to the U.S. Geological Survey and clicking on Shakeout Earthquake. And this brochure will come up and you can print it out and read about it yourself. That's the earthquake we're getting ready for. And the rule of three. Most preparedness documents you read, including the ones that were distributed to you this very night, talk about generic emergency preparedness. And they all talk about 72 hours or 3 days worth of household readiness. One size does not fit all. Our shakeout scenario earthquake foretells we'll need about 3 times more of that. So, what should we do and how many of us have done it? I'll turn the podium over to my colleagues.
Basically, the way it's going to work tonight is I'll tell you a little bit, or I'll tell you some of the things that we recommend that you do. We can't cover everything, obviously, but the material that you picked up tonight when you came in really has all the information that you need. I'll tell you a little bit of what to do, and then Jim will respond to the survey, and we'll find out what you've already done. Again, a very good publication that we recommend that you read, probably the best thing that's ever been done on earthquake. And this is a brand new release that just came to us. You all received a copy of it tonight, Putting Down Roots in Earthquake Country. Anything you'll ever want to know about earthquakes and the risks that we face. We're going to talk about 7 areas that we think it's very, very important to act on. We'll be looking at this pyramid from the bottom to the top. There are many specific things to do in each of the categories, and many of the things that we should do are free. We'll go over all of the 7 areas one at a time. We'll list major actions to take in each area. We'll report on how many people in Rancho Mirage have taken those actions, and we'll start with the next slide. Learn how to be ready. We all need to learn what to do to be safe during an earthquake. We need to learn how to shut off our utilities, our gas, our water. What supplies and equipment to have on hand, you'll hear that a lot tonight. How to make things inside your home safer, and how to make the building itself safer. How to safeguard your finances.
Half of us know what to do during an earthquake, and half have made things safer in our homes and know how to. A few of us, only 12%, know how to make our structures safer, and about a third of us don't know what supplies and equipment to have on hand.
We need to make plans. This is very important and something the Commission stresses throughout the year and probably our primary job. Make and practice a family disaster plan. We've been emphasizing earthquake because knowing that the earthquake that we face is going to require the most amount of planning, we figure if you're ready for this earthquake, you're ready for anything else that's going to happen to us here. Be part of neighborhood planning. If you belong to a homeowners association or a gated community, be part of their planning process and make a disaster plan for your pets.
So where are we in Rancho Mirage on planning? About a third of us, or 32%, have a family disaster plan, but most don't. Many of us have pets, 39% of our population, but few of us have a plan for our pets, or 60% of the 39% do not. Most of us living in HOAs, which equates to 87%, have only a 17% participation rate in neighborhood planning.
We also recommend that you get yourselves trained. Get training in first aid and CPR. It's available throughout the valley, from the Red Cross. The Weil Institute does CPR training. A lot of training is available to you. We recommend that you participate in community emergency response team training, also known as CERT. And they have a booth outside, a table outside in the lobby. And we ask if you're interested in learning more about CERT, stop in there and see them. Take out an application for the city-sponsored training that we have coming up. And it's very worthwhile. You can feel that you're more than capable of taking care of yourselves when an earthquake strikes. And again, the last thing, do preparedness training. For those of us that work, do training at work as well.
So what does the survey say about training and practicing? Many of us are trained in first aid. A few of us are trained in disaster response like CERT, and about a third of those of us that work have trained and practiced at work.
Let's talk a little bit about supplies and equipment. And again, all of this information is contained in the materials that you picked up tonight, so it's really not important for you to take notes, but I do want to talk about it a little bit, and it may generate questions later on. What we should have. We should all have a first aid kit and medical supplies. Obviously, flashlights and batteries. Water, have at least 18 gallons per person for the 7 to 10 days. Non-perishable food, at least a 7 to 10 day supply for each person in the household. Radio, battery powered, crank, or solar. Have fire extinguishers in your car, in your garage, in your kitchen, any place that you may have to use them. Keep copies of your important papers. Keep extra cash on hand, in small bills preferably. Cash will be king. You won't be able to use credit cards because we won't have any electricity for a while. Keep extra prescription medications. Your pharmacy and most insurance plans will cover a small cache of extra supplies. Keep dust masks for respiratory protection. When the shaking is going on, a lot of people suffer serious injury simply because of the amount of dust that's in the air. Keep tools on hand to rescue trapped people. Tools to turn off your gas and other utilities. Bleach or another way to purify water. We recommend that if it's possible, purchase a backup power generator. Keep sturdy shoes and a flashlight next to your bed. Keep your vehicle gas tank half full at all times. Not only is it a source of power so that you can continue to listen to the radio, but during the summer and the very high temperatures that we have, it's a mini cooling station for many of us. Keep disaster supplies in your car. There's an odds-on chance, Murphy's Law being what it is, that it will be in our car when something happens. So keep supplies in your car.
Survey says most of us have first aid items, flashlights, radios, some water and food, gas valve tools, and fire extinguishers. However, a few of us have enough of what we'll need, like water, food, car supplies, and rescue tools. Sorry.
Sorry. We recommend that you secure the contents in your home, and this is very important. Install latches on your cupboards or cabinets that are specifically designed to keep them closed. Secure your furniture and appliances so that when the shaking starts, they kind of stay in one place. Secure heavy things like your TVs and your computers. Use earthquake hooks for pictures and any other kind of wall hangings that you have. And we recommend installing an automatic shut-off valve for your gas supply, especially if you don't think that you'd be able to shut it off yourself if you detected a leak. Strap your water heater to the wall, and most of us have done that. Protect shelf items in your home to reduce damage. And of course, store hazardous household materials safely.
The survey showed some of us have done things to be safer from things in our homes, but most have not. For example, only 17% have secured wall pictures, 26% have secured big furniture and appliances, 14% have secured TVs and computers, and only 22% have arranged cabinet and shelf items safely, which is an easy one to do.
The other thing, and maybe something a little bit more difficult for some people, but very important, we have a lot of older buildings and older homes here in Rancho Mirage, and we strongly recommend that you do whatever you can to structurally reinforce your home. And if you can't do it yourself, have your home inspected for seismic resistance.
Again, the survey showed few of us, 10%, have done anything to increase the seismic resistance of our homes. And even fewer, 4%, have had our homes inspected.
Take steps to safeguard your finances. That's an individual decision that each of us has to make, but for some, that simply means insurance.
What do we find in the survey? Less than half of us have earthquake insurance for our structure. A third of us have insurance for our contents, and many are still confused about coverage. Is it in all policies or not?
Some other things that we've learned about ourselves here in Rancho Mirage. Many of us, not many of us, but enough people that it's worth mentioning, believe in a lot of earthquake myths, and we kind of listed them to find out where that belief system was. So I'll discuss a few of them. Some people believe the government will provide everything that we need when an earthquake happens. The truth is, government won't be able to, even if they wanted to. Many people believe that sand here in the desert softens the shaking effect. Truth is, it doesn't. Sand makes shaking even worse. A lot of people think, well, there's nothing I can do, so why worry? 6% of us actually believe that. The truth is, there's lots that we can do. One of the things that Dr. Maletti says in most of his lectures is, Mother Nature causes earthquake, but it's people that cause earthquake losses. Building codes will keep me safe. 8% of us believe that. The truth is, they certainly do help, but they do help reduce damage, but we're still not safe. Buildings built on bedrock will be safer. The truth is, in a major quake, they won't. And I stress major quake. Quakes don't happen here. Luckily, none of us believe that. They do, small, medium, and large. And every 300 years, very large. Every 150 years, I should say. I've coded these in red because they're significantly more important than some of the other ones. Some people, 42% of us, believe that the safest place that you can be when the shaking starts is to get in a doorway during a quake. The truth is, it's a terrible place to be. Many people are severely injured by being thrown back and forth against the sideboards of the door opening itself, and God forbid there's a door in there, it'll beat you to death. Many people believe in getting in the triangle of life. For those of you that don't know what that simply means is that if the roof of your building collapses and it collapses against the sidewall, it will form a triangle. It may form a pocket or a triangle that you could be safe under. 14% of us believe that that's the case and that it's safer. The truth is, fewer injuries overall will occur if we simply duck, cover, and hold. And what that means is look for a sturdy table or a desk, duck under it, cover up as best you can, and hold on to that object so that you can stay in one place during the shaking. Many people, 17%, believe that it's safer to run outside during an earthquake. That's not true. Fewer injuries, again, if you duck, cover, and hold. If you run outside during an earthquake, you could be hit by ceiling tiles or roof tiles coming off your building, down power lines, trees that are toppling over. The exception would be if you're out in the middle of the golf course and it's wide open and there's nothing around you, that's probably a pretty safe place to be. Many people believe that quake insurance, or some people, not many, just 2% of us believe that quake insurance is in all of our home policies. The fact is, it isn't.
Where are we in Rancho Mirage? Not many of us believe myths, but many we believe threaten our health and safety. For example, 42% think we should get in a doorway, and 17% think we should run outside. Almost 2/3 of us reported we'd buy a 10-day emergency supply kit when we asked the question if it was reasonably priced and contained everything we'd need but water. We aren't sure which way we're going on that, but there's a web listing at the back that lists a whole list of vendors that you can go online and search out sources for such kits.
Where do we get our information on emergency preparedness? Well, the survey told us that most of us find out about preparedness from TV or other media like that. And a very large percentage of us find out about it from each other. Only 8% of us remember ever getting any information from the Rancho Mirage Emergency Preparedness Commission. That was a little disturbing to us.
Well, they may be the 8%.
Most of us, 94%, are interested in attending a town hall meeting such as this one, but a large number, 62% of the respondents, didn't know that we have such meetings.
Are people in Rancho Mirage ready? Our general conclusion. Almost everyone is interested. It's caught on for about half of us, but most who are preparing are underprepared for the earthquake we face.
The survey results that we're talking to tonight are available to you in the back of the auditorium. You may have already picked them up in the package that you have. They're very interesting. We've tried not to bore you with too much detail, but it's really kind of interesting to see where people are. We learned a lot from this survey as a commission. We learned that there are things and work that we have to do. We're in the process right now of reviewing the findings of that survey to establish a new work plan for ourselves and for our next steps. We do know that we need to modify our approach to reach more of our individual households. And we already know, as Dennis will discuss in great detail, that we already need your help.
Thank you. You have no idea how it warms a sociologist's heart to hear people claim that the results of a survey are useful. What I'm going to do now is share with you the state of knowledge in American social and behavioral science about how to motivate people to prepare and what you can do to help. The question fundamentally is one about human behavior. How do you help people to stop doing what they're doing, listen to those who are recommending that they get ready for the unthinkable, and then take actions to get ready for events that in their heart and in their preferences they think won't really happen. And if they do happen to other people and not them. That's the fundamental question. And that's how human beings are wired. There's a basis for the answer. Psychologists and sociologists, and there are only those two disciplines that study human behavior, have been studying the human animal for over 1 century. Think about that. For over 100 years, most American university campuses have had a psychology department and a sociology department staffed with faculty and graduate students trying to understand the human animal. I'm here to report to you tonight, and I'm only freed up to do this because I'm retired and no longer need research dollars, that we understand people. Not only do we understand people, we understand what motivates people like us to get ready. A mega study was just completed, and I'm going to tell you about that mega study. Here's the answer produced by that mega study. I should say that mega study was conducted by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. I'm not good with this, but I can still do the talk. By the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to study every person in America. And it was done in a way that social science is rarely done. Social scientists rarely do big science. This was big science. 3 things motivate human beings to actually engage in the behavior of getting ready for events they hope never happen. The first is information about getting ready, not about risk. To put it simply, if you tell people about earthquake probabilities, earthquake risk, shaking intensities, and say the probability has gone up and it's going to be really big, most people turn off and tune out. The kind of information that does motivate people to get ready is information about how to get ready. So what that means is if you want people to get ready, what there is to share with them is what they should do to get ready. That's the first piece of information. The second is information that's not written and information that's not read or heard. It's seeing other people in their lives doing things to get ready. It's called cueing behavior. It's also how fads and fashions catch on, and it's also how you can predict political party affiliation. In this case, it also explains getting ready. Second thing after information is clearly understanding how preparedness actions cut losses if an event occurs. So it's one thing to say, know how to turn off your gas supply. That's insufficient. One needs to explain why you want to turn off your gas supply. If you don't turn it off and the gas is leaking, it could catch on fire and burn your house. Having the wrench and knowing how to do it may mean you could keep your house from burning. People are much more responsive to seeing the link between an objective they'd like to achieve and the behavior that you're asking them to take. And then the third thing is talking about it with other human beings. Human beings are social animals. We don't do many things without talking it over with other people. What people? Not experts. The people we have in our lives. Those are the 3 things that motivate people to get ready for disasters in their future that they hope never happen. Information about preparedness that's written works best if it comes from multiple sources. So if, for example, you have 7 friends and they all talk to you about getting ready, you're much more likely to get ready. If it's delivered over multiple channels, that means, for example, if an advisement to get ready is printed on the shopping bags when you go to the grocery store, and you see it on bumper stickers on your neighbor's car, and the person living across the street from you has an unprepared sign stuck in her front lawn. That probably wouldn't make the president of your HOA happy. If the information is about specific actions that people can take to prepare, and also, very important, if the information from all those sources and channels are consistent with each other. In other words, to sum that all up, after 100 years of psychologists and sociologists doing research, you have to sell it the way they sell Coca-Cola. And information that's observed is cues or seeing other people get ready. Information motivates people in two ways. First, directly, by directly increasing preparedness action taken. I can tell you that that explains half of the variance in Americans getting ready. The other half is explained by the indirect effect of information on having people change their behavior. What I mean by indirect is information directly has people go home and get ready, and it has people get ready after it also juices up a few other things on the way by increasing knowledge that people have about what to do to get ready, by increasing the perceived effectiveness people perceive about how what it is they're doing will make a difference perhaps someday in their life, and also by enticing them to talk about it over coffee and dinner and drinks with friends. It looks like this. The blue balloons on the left is information and cues, seeing other people get ready, reading about it, listening to it, and watching it. And it has a direct effect on the blue balloon on the right, which is going home and getting ready. But it also has an indirect effect through these other things. This explains 100% of the variation in the United States of America about Americans getting ready for disasters, for terrorism, for earthquakes, for other natural hazards, and for disasters that we've yet to invent. The mega study nailed this. This is it. Nothing else matters. The relationship between information that people get is pliable. What I mean by pliable is it's able to be influenced. You can't change someone's gender. Isn't it great that gender doesn't impact preparedness? You can change the information that people have access to. Isn't it great that what matters most can be changed and altered? And the relationship is linear. What I mean by linear is this. The more information you put in, the more preparedness you get out. And the less information you put in, the less actions you get out. Now, here's what you can do to help. And I'm here tonight to leave you with one message. We need your help. We need your help in Rancho Mirage. We need your help in the Coachella Valley. And we need your help in the state of California. There are several steps you can take that will provide the key to others in your life getting ready for the earthquake in their future. The first is talk to other people about preparedness. Talk to the people you know and love that are in your life about getting ready. You're an important key to motivating others' preparedness. In fact, you can provide more motivation for them getting ready than all the experts put together. 2, stop using risk to motivate them. Don't try to motivate other people by talking to them about how big our earthquake's going to be, about how high the probability is, about the magnitude or the shaking intensities that we're going to experience here in the valley. Perceived risk does not influence public preparedness action taking. You have no idea how upset the seismologists got when I presented this finding to them. Probabilities, magnitudes, and intensities, and knowing about them have important applications, just not for household preparedness, given how human beings are wired. Why is that? People want to believe they're safe, even when they know they're not. If you talk about risk, many people tune out and turn off. If you talk about ways to increase safety or preparedness, many people turn on. Step 3, don't be bossy. Don't tell others what to do. Most human beings are wired to resist being told what to do. And any of you who have raised teenagers understand that. In fact, any of you who ever were a teenager understands that. You motivate and share with other people by sharing what you've done rather than telling them what to do, and then giving them information about how they can find out more about how to do it if they want to do it, just like we did when you walked in here. Step 4, explain to them how their preparedness and mitigation and readiness actions can cut their losses. Drive home how your actions will reduce your losses. People are much more likely to act when they understand the action to result link. That is, how readiness actions you took will work to reduce your losses if something happens. Step 5, and this is the big ticket item. This is what really has the biggest impact. If there were one thing, this is at the top of the list. That's the big one. This is it. Don't just talk. Give them things to see. Supplement what you say with visible cues that other people can see. Make your preparedness actions visible. Help us get public preparedness out of the closet and in the street, because monkey see, monkey do applies. How do you do that? Use your imaginations. Here are a few ideas. Display your emergency supplies at home and work. Put an unprepared bumper sticker on your car. Wear an unprepared lapel pin. Put an unprepared placard in your kitchen window if your kitchen faces the street. In fact, in a year, you'll see the Southern California Earthquake Alliance engage in what will be then an annual affair for earthquake preparedness throughout the state of California, doing these very things. So presidents of HOAs, beware. There are lawn signs in your future. And step 6, help stamp out our myths. Our most dangerous and all-pervasive myth is get in a doorway, run outside, and get in the triangle of life. You can't add the numbers from the Rancho Mirage survey together. It may be the same person who said yes to all these things, but let's just pretend that you could add them together. It comes to almost 3/4 of the population of the city of Rancho Mirage might do the wrong thing during the earthquake and may never have the opportunity to use their emergency supplies. Now, given that, the Emergency Preparedness Commission has discussed what might be a part of next year's town hall meeting. And in 2010, it's going to be partly a preparedness showcase. And what's going to be showcased is we're out to find a few good cues to make visible to everyone in Rancho Mirage. And we'd like some of you to volunteer to share with your neighbors at the next year's town hall meeting what you've done to get ready. And we'd like to have some households step forward and do that, some HOAs step forward and do that, and some businesses to step forward and do that. So it says in red, volunteer now. And how you'd volunteer is to call City Hall and let them know you're willing to discuss sharing that. And we promise to come up with a way that empowers you and gives you a sense of satisfaction. We know that the second biggest fear on the planet is death. Really, scientists have discovered this. Do you know what the first fear is? Public speaking. And so we promise to invent a way. I lost mine after the first 10 years of giving university lectures. We promise to invent a way that won't be an issue or a problem for you. So if you need the number of City Hall, you know how to find it, but here it is, 324-4511. Call up and volunteer, because we are going to put preparedness in the streets, and we are out to increase the level of preparedness and readiness in the households of our city. But please remember, prepare for the right earthquake. Do print this document out. Do read it. Understand what we're facing and what we're getting ready for. And recollect that our recommendation is to be ready to be on your own for 7 to 10 days. And get ready the best ways we know how. This is in the bags that were handed out. It's in the lobby. I don't know of another city in California that's bought more copies of this document than Rancho Mirage. And there's also the daretoprepare.org website operated off the USC campus where you can go. Richard?
Thank you, everybody.
Dr. Dennis Maletti, great job.
Thank you, Dennis.
Okay, the lights are on and the microphones are in the back. Anybody that would like to ask a question, raise your hand and the microphone will be brought to you. There's a question right over here.
How is the city going to communicate with citizens on the occasion of an earthquake?
The question is, how is the city going to communicate with the residents?
I'll take that if I may. Coincidentally, we have just announced, and we had our first public meeting about a new communication system that we've installed and are utilizing, or will begin to utilize in the city. And that is that we're going to be using radio communication, a simple radio with a channel that is actually 2 channels, a direct to repeat channel, but a radio that will allow us as commission or individual commission members to communicate with the homeowners associations that we're responsible for. The purpose of that is that we can gather situation status reports right after an event and find out where the most dire needs of the community are, report that back to the Emergency Operations Center in the city, and get that information going as fast as we can. We're asking each homeowners association, and we have over 150 of them here in the city, to purchase a radio at a cost of less than $300 that will give us the ability to do that. That closes a very, very important link in our city emergency preparedness plan. And there'll be more information going out to all the homeowners associations about that. We had a very good participation at our first meeting, so we really think this is something that's going to work. Doug Bornstein, one of our commissioners here, has kind of taken that under his wing, and he's running with it. He's doing a great job.
Another question, please.
Is there a way to purify, does anyone know, pool water for my use, and I'm sure all my new friends who I'll have after the earthquake? Thank you.
The question has to do with the amount of water that's to be stored. Dennis, do you want to address that question?
I'm happy to. None of us will have any water in our swimming pools after this earthquake. It'll all slosh out. If there is any water at the bottom, it might be 6 inches, and you can use that for sanitation. But I wouldn't count on your water being in the pool. I'm sorry to have to tell you that bad news. When we said at least 18 gallons per person, we were thinking about water for drinking and water for sanitation and water for wetting a towel to make a little lean-to if it's 120 degrees out. And it's a good recommendation. And keep in mind when you think about this water issue that all the water on the planet is the same water that's always been here. Water really doesn't get old. There is no new water. We probably have all drank liquid that was once inside a dinosaur. And so we can store water, and if stuff grows in it, we can decontaminate it through a small handheld filter pump or the appropriate number of laundry bleach drops in it, etc. But you need to store the water that you'll need during this event. And there's also liquid to drink in, fruit cocktail cans. Does that answer your question?
Would you like to spend just a couple of minutes talking a little bit about the CERTS program?
I really would. CERT stands for Community Emergency Response Team, response teams, or some like to say Community Emergency Response Training. Basically, it's a class that you can go to as a citizen. It usually involves 2 evenings, in 2 weekday evenings usually, and then 1 whole Saturday, an 8-hour Saturday. You will learn how to use fire extinguishers. You'll learn how to do basic first aid. You'll learn how to do some moderate rescue techniques for getting people out from under trapped debris and so forth. It's a wonderful, wonderful class to learn to help yourself and your community. A lot of the homeowners associations have sent 4 or 5 or 6 people that are interested in doing that to these classes, and the city has decided to go ahead and sponsor these classes themselves. The first one's going to begin later on in this month, and there are applications at the CERT table out there right now, as a matter of fact. The city is going to, the classes are basically, I think for all of the materials involved, and the city is picking up the full tab for the cost of the instructor and the materials and so forth, we're asking everybody to pay an initial fee of $87. However, and this is a big however, residents of Rancho Mirage that can provide proof of residency will be reimbursed 100% if they just successfully complete the class. It means all you have to do is go. You'll pass, trust me. It's a very, very good program. Please stop and talk to the CERT people about it. It's very good.
Some of us have properties on lakes. How do we prepare ourselves when we're 20 feet away, like a tsunami?
I actually know more physical science than most sociologists do. You don't have to worry about a tsunami from a lake. So I wouldn't worry about it at all. And the modeling that's been done has shown that in this earthquake, there might be some seishes. That is actually a word that people who study water use. in Santa Monica. And those are like baby little waves that aren't going to cause much damage. So I wouldn't concern myself with that at all. I'm happy to say that. Thanks for that. I get to say something good.
That is not to say that a lot of that water in that lake won't slosh out. And if you're real close to it, obviously you could be affected by it. But you're not going to have any real destructive power from that.
Dennis, what if they live next to the Salton Sea?
I simply wouldn't be that concerned.
Okay. All right.
They might have a bigger concern about the water getting on them than.
Okay.
Right.
I have gotten so much conflicting advice with regards to earthquake insurance, whether it's worthwhile or not with the huge deductible. I'm just wondering how you, as well as maybe the rest of the audience, feels about earthquake insurance. Thank you.
We get asked that question at virtually every meeting that we have. People want to know, should I have earthquake insurance or should I not? And the question is that it really becomes an individual decision. We live in a pretty affluent community, and we found out some interesting things in the survey. There's a lot of things that people will do in Rancho Mirage, especially if they can simply write a check to do it, rather than go out and go shopping and put things together like supply kits and so forth. One of those things is earthquake insurance. If you're an independently wealthy person and you can self-insure, and you know that whatever happens to your structure, you're in a position to repair it, then that's a decision that you might make. But if you're like me, who worked for your living all your life, and you know that I'm looking at a deductible that may be as much as $100,000 of earthquake insurance, at least I know that I might be able to swing that with some loans or with some federal help or something like that. I would not be able to completely rebuild my structure. I know that for a fact. For me, earthquake insurance is a viable option. And that really, I think, is what it boils down to.
If I may, I'd like to add a few more words, because earthquake insurance is a vigorously discussed topic in Southern California. And most of the logic goes like this. If you looked at all the earthquakes we've had in everyone who's alive's lifetime, and looked at the amount of damage they've caused and how much that damage has cost, does it make good cost-benefit sense to spend money on earthquake insurance? The answer ends up being no. And the reason is the deductible is high. They don't insure chimneys or block walls or swimming pools, etc. But all the earthquakes we've experienced have been relatively minor in the world of earthquakes. When one's making a judgment about risk, you shouldn't look backwards. That's history. You need to look forward. And I, in making that judgment, made the conclusion I wouldn't move back to California unless I had earthquake insurance. And I happily live this close to the San Andreas Fault in our beautiful city, and earthquake insurance is part of what makes me happy to be here.
So when I bought my house 4 years ago, I made a point of learning where the gas and water shutoff valves are. And I realized tonight I have no idea where they are. So how often are you supposed to sort of refresh this plan? I'm going to do that tonight or tomorrow, by the way.
I think you need to refresh it as many times, at least once a year, and make sure the people in your household also know where those items are located and how to do it. Keep in mind, if you turn your gas off and it isn't an earthquake, you're going to wait 2 or 3 days to get it turned back on. So practice, don't do it until the need arises. If you buy an auto shutoff valve, they'll be preset to a magnitude shake, and those will shut off totally, and of course the gas company will have to come back and reset it. But I would say do it annually and make sure if you have children or you have other people living in the home, they participate as well.
Real quickly, I'd like to add, keep a wrench. Whatever wrench you're going to use to shut off that gas, keep it at the valve. Put a piece of rope on it, tie it to the valve. That's the way I have mine. I always know where it is. I don't have to go looking for it when things are crazy.
Question up here in the front.
Your suggestion about getting a wrench and tying a rope to the meter, which I heard last year, and I went out and did that. And not too long ago, the reader meter came by the house. So I went out and I said to him, which way do I turn this thing? He says, you don't touch it. He says, leave it alone. He says, because we have sensors at our main gas supply where if an earthquake comes, it automatically shuts the gas off to the whole city. Do not tamper with your meter. So who's right?
Well, I can only give you some experience that I've had. I was a firefighter in a career. There's a lot of residual gas in gas lines. And I can tell you that by the time that, and I'm not saying those systems aren't great. I think that technology is wonderful that they can do that. But I'm going to shut the gas off at my meter if I detect a leak, because I know, and as Dennis pointed out, in the great shakeout exercise that we did, the vast majority of damage that's going to be caused by a major earthquake is going to be from fire. And it's going to be mainly because of broken gas lines. You know, we're not suggesting for 1 second that everybody runs out when there's an earthquake and shut your gas valve off. We suggest that if you detect a leak, and gas is odorized so that you can smell it. If you detect a leak, that's the step to take. But there's too much residual gas actually inside the walls of your house, even in the gas lines that you have. That's our recommendation.
Well, what I'm still interested in is this shutoff valve. Who do I call? What company will come out and and give me this automatic shutoff valve?
You need to call your plumbing company, and I used my plumbing company, and it's priced by the size of the gas line, I was told, that supplies your gas, like 1.5 inch or whatever. And I was also told later that I probably should have gotten a couple of quotes, because the price I paid in someone else's mind seemed a little high. So I would call 1 or 2 reputable plumbing companies and ask them to come out and give you a price, and they'll do it.
I would wonder if there's any clarification about how you can know that your house is going to be a lot more structurally sound during an earthquake by the year that it was built.
In general, the newer your house, the more seismic resistance the building code that was in force at the time your house was built has. That doesn't mean your house got it, because that depends on the subcontractors that were hired and whether or not they actually did it. And after many earthquakes, we always find cases where the subcontractor didn't build it to code. And those things are rarely inspected for. And so you really are flying on the goodwill of the subcontractor and whether they were willing to bend over that day. So the bottom line is this: if you really want to know how much resistance is in your home, call someone who knows that profession and have your home inspected, and they'll tell you.
Generally speaking, I think what Dennis said is probably true, but we have a pretty good building department, and they inspect the work pretty carefully. So I think that you're probably better than average safe here.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for coming tonight. If you have any additional questions, I'm sure our presenters will be here afterwards. And don't forget to prepare to survive. Thanks again. Drive safely.